Hello and welcome to another weekly update, and 4 interesting links to share with you this week from across the gamut of what's been happening with Skype for Business and Teams, what's been happening in the developer space, and some other sort of Azure bits and pieces as well. I'm going to start with a useful blog post, actually, I'd say, from the Bot Framework team around finding your bot AppID and AppSecret. Now, if you remember, fairly recently, I say fairly recently, it was like the start of the year, it was over Christmas, the Bot Framework registration process moved from being a dedicated portal to something that happened in Azure. And since that's happened, a lot of where you find that information that you need to get stuff done has changed. And one of those things that's changed is the location of the AppID and the AppSecret. And actually, I didn't know until I saw the blog post. I didn't really know where you'd go and find the AppSecret, because I know when you go through the generation process, and you used to with the old Bot Framework could do this as well, you'd create the AppID, you'd create the secret would be shown on, and then you'd never, where would it go? It would just disappear. You had to make a note of it and put it into your code, and I didn't know whether or not there was a way of getting back what your secret was. Turns out there is, and in Azure, it's kind of well hidden, but you can get to it. It's quite interesting where you get to it, because what you do is you show for your published bot, which is an app service. You go there, you go to that resource, and then there is a section where you can see a load of inputs, and listed among those inputs are lots of interesting things like the region in which it's hosted in, the server farm ID, the type of server farm, some information about scale and spec, and some other bits and pieces, but 2 other things that are there as well is the AppID and the AppSecret. And that lets you just go and see what your AppID is and your AppSecret is. So that will be useful, hopefully, to somebody. It's useful information to have from the Bot Framework team, so that's pretty cool. All right, something completely different, nothing to do with bots, much more kind of hands-on, I suppose, or away from bots and towards Skype for Business. And that is, I say Skype for Business, but it's Skype for Business and Teams, actually. And that's around CQD and data in CQD, and a new PowerShell module called CQDTools. I say it's new to me. I've not heard about it before. I think it is new. Really interesting blog post on Tech Community's blog by someone at Microsoft, Martin Renus, around this new tool. And it's designed to help with the information in CQD about buildings and subnets and sites and tying all those things together. So it's a number of PowerShell modules that allows you to create building mapping files and update those building mapping files and tying buildings to subnets. Basically, the aim of the exercise is to make the data in CQD more accurate, because if you make the data in CQD more accurate, the data that CQD can give you back about call quality will be better and will be more accurate. So interesting that if you do anything with CQD, have a look at that. It's a useful PowerShell module. It looks relatively easy to use. It seems like it's got good help built in as well. There's a couple of different functions, such as find missing buildings inside CQD, get building mapping from AD sites, and get building mapping from Microsoft DHCP. Interesting. So that's definitely worth a look. All right, moving on. A bit more developer-y, this one. I put it in, I found it really interesting because I didn't even know this thing existed in Azure, and by all accounts I probably should have known it existed. So there is a service in Azure called the SignalR service. Now I'm just going to let that sink in. If you've done anything as a developer with SignalR, you'll know it's awesome. It's really good for near or real-time communication between disparate items. You have it's a wrapper. It's a collection for, it's not a collection, it's a wrapper, an abstraction around a number of different technologies in the browser that allow, normally the browser, HTTP, that allow this kind of real-time communication to happen. So WebSockets being a kind of an easy one, and then but all the way through to like long polling if the browser doesn't support something like WebSockets. It's a nice abstraction, works really well, enables all sorts of kind of real-time looking activity to happen in the browser across the internet, and I like it. I think it's really good. The thing with SignalR though is when you set it up, you have SignalR clients and you have a SignalR service, which is fine. And traditionally, what I've always done is create the SignalR service, push it up to Azure as a web app. You write the same code every time around the service, around what you want it to do, and you push it up. Turns out there is now an Azure SignalR service, which I think is really cool. It's making SignalR a platform, and bringing it into the PaaS world, making it really easy to go to Azure. Literally kind of turn on this service, and then in the clients all you need to do is reference that endpoint. So I think it's really cool. I haven't had a chance to play with it in Angular yet, but I'm going to point you to a video by .NET Fix, which does a really good job actually of walking through using it in a real world example with real code in Visual Studio, showing the differences between doing it yourself versus doing it using the Azure SignalR service. So seems really cool. I'm definitely going to use it for the next SignalR thing I want to do. In fact, I know what that's going to be, so that's going to be kind of interesting. That's exciting. So looking forward to doing that. If you're doing SignalR, have a look at that, because that could make your world easier. It's a properly managed service then. It's on Microsoft to keep it up and running and to look after it. And be interesting to see what you get there in terms of metrics and operational help as well. So that's all cool. And then finally, it's the monthly update for what's new in Teams. So every month there is new stuff coming to Teams still, kind of new and exciting things. And this is our chance to kind of look back and see, what's new, what's coming, and what's there now. So available today, we have things like direct routing that's being talked about, by other blogs in other channels. We've got Teams coming to the US government cloud. That's interesting. There's some new keyboard shortcuts. So if you're a keyboard wizard, there's new ways of invoking the keyboard shortcuts as well. You can view and edit Visio files in Teams. There's a bunch of new features. So I will point you to the July update blog post where you can go through and see what those all are. There's also a spotlight on some new apps as well, which is interesting. So lots going on. Lots going on in the Teams space, but also lots going on, in these other spaces as well. It's good to keep an eye on what's happening in Azure. It's good to keep an eye on what's happening in Skype for Business and Teams in CQD and CQD Online, and also the changes that Bot Framework team are making around keeping it running on Azure as well. So plenty going on at the moment. Another interesting week, and we look forward to another interesting week next week. But in the meantime, I will say have a great weekend, and I will speak to you again next time.